Welcome to the Have You Met Her Yet podcast. This podcast highlights the accomplishments, confronts the uncomfortable, and addresses our most fascinating questions about women in the workplace. Who they are, what they do, why you should know them. Join me, your host Lindsay Dent, each week as I interview a new influential woman in the workplace. It is my passion to share their incredible stories. You can expect real conversations, lessons, and stories from Canadian women who are thriving in their industries. Have You Met Her Yet is brought to you by Pink Crown Creative, a Canadian creative agency and community. In this week's episode, I speak with Leeann Froese from Town Hall Brands. I can't wait for you to meet Leeann. I hope you enjoy this episode. Welcome back to Have You Met Her Yet? Today I have Leeann Froese from Town Hall Brands. Leeann, thank you so much for joining me today. I would love to learn a little bit more about you. So starting from who you are, what you do, and how you currently got to where you are in your career.
Oh, wow. How long is this podcast? Thank you so much for having me. I'm really excited to chat with you today. As you noted, I'm from Town Hall Brands, which is a small agency in Vancouver that I co-own with my husband. And we do full service strategy, marketing, communications, including PR and social media, as well as graphic design, which includes packaging and consumer packaging, labels. We specialize in sports, which a lot of people don't know, hospitality and beverage alcohol. And, the long story is how we got there. So maybe I'll just focus on the last 10 years, which is, our agency turns 10 this year. And before that, my husband had his own graphic design little shop going, and I was a partner in a different agency. And I feel like you should also meet the person who mentored me, who was my former business partner. At some point, she would be great for you to chat with. Her name is Christine Coletta, and she hired me right out of marketing school, and I worked with her for 16 years before we started Town Hall Brands. So that's really how I got to where I am. But try to make this interesting for your listeners. I think I'll just add in details as we chat instead of telling you a long biography about me, which I'm happy to share with anyone offline.
Thank you for sharing that. So the first thing I want to address is you've started a business with your husband. Really interesting and definitely something that could be tricky. I'm sure there's tons of things in your history of challenges, amazing peaks. Can you share what it's been like, creating a business and successful brand with your husband, and any sort of lessons that you've learned along the way?
Yes, I've learned many lessons. First of all, I want to give my husband, Andrew Von Rosen, a shout out because he is amazing. He's amazing dad, grandpa, and life partner. And he's a wonderful business partner as well. So before I talk about any challenges, I want everyone to know how awesome he is.
I love that.
And it kind of happened in a way that neither of us planned it to. Sometimes things happen to you, or you roll into them. And I think Town Hall Brands is one of those situations for us. As I mentioned, he had his own graphic design business going. He had one employee, and I was partner in another agency, and we had a team there. But in that agency was called Coletta and Associates, after Christine Coletta. In that agency, we did many of the same things we do now at Town Hall Brands, but we didn't do graphic design. It was always outsourced. And very early on in the stages of Christine and I working together, Andrew became the graphic designer that supported Coletta and Associates. And, I remember working with her, and we were doing a wine tasting event, and she's like, oh, I need to create a booklet and I need a graphic designer. And I said, oh, my boyfriend is a graphic designer. This is how long ago it was. He was just my boyfriend at that point. And she goes, oh, okay, I'll talk to him. So the two of them started working together and doing design as the years went by and projects came and went. we started getting into more of those branding projects. So, starting brands from the ground up and packaging them. Andrew would do all the graphic identity once we did all the other pieces that go with it. And so we were really working in an integrated way, even though we were in physically separate spaces with physical company identities that were separated out. Well, again, going back into part of my biographical story, Christine and I were working together with another partner, Julian, and that all kind of came to an end in 2012, 2013, because Christine opened her own winery, which is now known as Haywire.
Amazing.
And so it didn't really make sense for us to keep going with the agency that we were running. And so what happened was, because Andrew and our office were already sharing so many clients, it just kind of made sense for Andrew and I to keep it going, but under a new umbrella. So we brought our two teams together in a really formal way, and we opened Town Hall Brands. So it was it was not something we set out to do, but when we sat down to talk about what it could look like, I was pleasantly surprised to see how aligned we were in the kind of work we want to do, what kind of ego we want to bring to that work, what our philosophies are. Like it was, I mean, it makes sense if you're married to somebody that you share all your values with them anyway.
Yes.
But I'm super outgoing and he's super introverted. I'm like, let's have all the people. He's like, I don't like people, like. So we do approach things differently, right? And I think that's part of the opposite attracts thing that happens.
Yeah.
So, you don't know how it's going to be when you go into business, when you look at things and you approach things separately. But we were very strongly aligned, as I mentioned, about what our core values are. And that core value is collaboration. So, we talked about what we do whenever we're about to do a new project, how we bring people around a table, we get input from all the people that have decision-making capability or that have input that really matters. And we have our little meeting. And then from there, we distill down, who do these people want to be? How do they want to express themselves? How do we do that in a graphic way? So before any projects of importance, you have this kind of meeting. It's your town hall. Right? So it's your town hall meeting. So that's why we call ourselves Town Hall.
Very
cool. Because of that collaborative approach, collaboration is our key value. And we really try to live that out by collaborating as husband and wife, collaborating with our team, collaborating with our clients, and then collaborating with other agencies too. We do white label work or open work in collaboration with others. So that's that. I've been talking for a long time. Do you want any... Before I tell you about things that were challenging or that we learned, is there anything else you want to ask?
I mean, I think what I would love to learn about your company, you've been in business for 10 years. You mentioned sort of your main clientele is the sports industry, wineries. What has changed within the last 10 years? I mean, I know as a business owner, you start one thing, you're like, this is what we're doing. Has any direction changed in your business in 10 years? Has your clientele changed? Anything that has made those changes kind of have to happen? Or has this always been sort of the same agency that you originally started?
Well, it's really interesting because of the diverse service offerings we provide. Some of those things remain constant, right? People always need help with their messaging and their story. And that no matter which way you deliver it, they always come to us and go, I need to find a way to define myself, or, I need some training to go on camera because I'd rather hide in the corner and things like that. Like those things haven't changed from the PR perspective. From the graphic design perspective, I mean, much has changed as far as eco materials for the packaged goods that we work on. We've been really proud to introduce our clients to some forestry certified papers and recycled papers that are made with interesting materials. Working with Christine coincidentally for a brand they have called Freeform. It's a non-intervention, organically bottled wine from Summerland, British Columbia. We brought to them, and they were the first ones in Canada to use a paper that's made 100% from stone. So
Wow.
no trees harmed, used, very low water usage. So we've been really noticing that, to change with the needs of our earth, we've had to change some of our practices. Everyone talks about how the workplace itself has changed with us moving to this remote or hybrid remote or anything like this. There's been so many conversations about that. And we're part of that conversation too. We have what I call now a dispersed workforce. So we've got people who are located in Los Angeles and in Vernon and White Rock, and then some of us come into the office a couple days a week, and some of us don't ever come into the office, right? And that's been a change as well. And then we last fall, October of 2022, we implemented a 4-day work week for our team.
Wow, nice.
So we've really not just tried to change with our industry, but we've tried to change to reflect what today's employee needs and try to be flexible for them as well.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, that's such a huge thing, to be mindful of what your team and employees are wanting and looking for. I do recruiting as well on the side, and that is the biggest thing is if you're either not offering work from home or hybrid, people are not interested. They don't want to come into an office 5 days a week. They know they can get work done. So if you have a company that really doesn't foster that, or you don't really promote or have that trust in your employees to do that, I mean, there's many other opportunities that make sense. So it's great that you've been able to change with the times and be respectful with what you kind of know your team is looking for.
Yeah, for sure. I mean, I think being at home and forced to be at home, we all learned something from it. Some people really went, this is great. And I know the days that I work at home, I can go outside and check the mail and walk my dog and get laundry done during lunchtime and all those kinds of things. And I think, why wouldn't my employees want that kind of experience as well, right?
Of
Like
course.
it helps you work towards that work life. I hate, we can talk about this as a sidebar, but not work life balance, but more harmony between the two, right?
Yeah.
And what we hear from our team over the years is that they love how flexible we are. We're flexible for them. We give them flexible time off and flexible length of work days and everything. And we heard from a couple of our employees that they wanted to maybe take a Friday off to go visit their family or whatever else. So we started off by going, should we just give this particular employee that wants to go visit their grandparents, should we give them time off one Friday a month or something with pay? Like, how can we do this? And that helped Andrew and I like dig in and really look at it and go like, no, what do we really want to do here? What would
Yeah.
really make them happy? And when they show up, feel good and productive and, all of those things. And the 4-day work week is the conclusion we came to. So our employees are paid for 5, but work for 4. And it's 32 hours a week. So they're still eligible for benefits. Yeah.
Amazing.
Yeah.
Wow, that's so wonderful to hear. Um, the next thing I want to discuss is, being an entrepreneur and being a business owner, sometimes I feel is glamorized. It's something that is like amazing. You have your own flexibility and schedule. You're making so much money. There's all this glamour to it. But what are some of the biggest things that were surprising to you about being an entrepreneur and owning your own business all of a sudden?
Well, like I said, we didn't set like I never said when I was starting my career, I want to own my own agency when I grow up. Like that was not my that was not my goal ever. And it just, as I said, kind of fell into our hands. And so Andrew always points out, I went to art school. I didn't go to business school, So he said, what would really be helpful to me is if they also taught you how to run your own artist business, when you go to school for art.
Yeah.
And
Yep.
so, like, having to learn all the things about taxes, and we incorporated ourselves and all of those things. Like, not surprising. I wouldn't say that's surprising as a business owner, but it was new for us to have to go through that process. So to get incorporated, to trademark our name, to all of those things, right? And then when you start adding employees into the mix, then you go, do we want to have contractors or do we want employees? And at first we just had contractors, but then when we realized that, they were behaving more like an employee, we went, it makes more sense to make them employees, both from a CRA perspective as well as just makes it easy for their lives. So then we learned that making someone an employee costs the business about 30% more per person. So then we're like,
Yeah.
okay, so that's expensive.
Yeah.
And that was a big surprise. So, we're always surprised by how much the tax man wants.
Yeah, it's a hard lesson to learn. Like you said, it's not really something taught unless you are specializing in business. You go to that for business school. I do think the world has become easier to start your own business, to launch your own business, to be a business owner. But there still are those things that we don't know. You have to self-teach. You have to, research, go to school for, or learn a little bit more about, or struggle and then find it out what you need to do.
Well, and I think a lot of small businesses do kind of struggle because, especially in startup mode, if you're not funded properly or you don't have the capital initially until you get going, you have to be the accountant, you have to be the IT person, you have to be the HR person, you have to be the marketer, you have to be the implementer of whatever your service is. And that's a lot of hats for not very many people to wear. And I think that small business cohort of businesses in British Columbia, I mean, I think they're all spread pretty thin.
Yes.
I feel pretty lucky because, we hire out our bookkeeping, we hire out our accounting, we have Hydra does our HR for us. We have wonderful people who help us with IT. Shout out to Zach. And those things that we don't do ourselves. I always say, like, there's people who can help you. But again, if you're small and starting up, you might not be able to afford to hire those services. So it puts different kinds of pressures on people who are starting their business. That
Yeah.
being said, there's lots of grants available. There's lots of, like, Small Business BC or like the Forum for Women Entrepreneurs or many, many other groups, depending on your industry. There's resources for you to get help or start a mastermind. Van City Business Babes, has things like this too, where people can go and talk to other like-minded people, share resources, see what works, maybe do a swap of services, things like this.
Yeah, yeah, absolutely. Is there any advice you'd give to someone who would like to start a PR business or get into your field?
Well, PR is a whole other topic on its own, and what PR means to people in today's, in today's landscape. When I started PR, and here I show my age, but when I started PR, we were using fax machines and we were sending things out in paper folders, and there was a dedicated, I was doing wine PR. There was a dedicated columnist in every single magazine, and there was a million magazines and a million newspapers, and there was wine segments on the radio and wine, as the media landscape has shifted and changed and the blogosphere opened up, things really changed. And now social media, when you have these content creators, like, the first question is like, what does PR mean to you? Traditional PR has changed so much. What are you hoping to offer as a service? And if that service is some kind of promotion, or maybe it's influencer relations or something like this, I'd say anyone looking to start the business, I would advise you to niche up early. So figure out which industry you want to work in, and then figure out where the audience is for that industry. I'm such an audience driven marketer that, like, I think, okay, who's the target demographic or psychographic that I want to go towards for product X, and then what's capturing the attention of their eyeballs. That's what I want to target as a publicist. Now, in today's landscape, I can't always do it in an earned media way, right? And I don't know if your listeners know what the difference is between paid, owned, earned, and shared media, but they are kind of just like they sound. Like, paid for media, you pay for it, you guarantee the message, you have control over the content. Owned media is anything you create yourself. So your own social content or website or this podcast, this is all owned media. And then shared, obviously, is other people talking about you, and the earned media kind of falls within there. So the earned media and the shared media is third parties talking about you. That's traditionally where PR fit in,
Right.
but I do find that, if anyone wants to start up their own business doing that, your question was, what advice would I give them? I'd say, like, figure out what you want to promote and to whom, and then you can start from there and then do all the business pieces that go with it that we mentioned about setting up your structure of your business, etc.
Yeah, I think that's really wonderful advice, especially the niche piece. I think that was something that I struggled with as a business owner. I mean, starting a business, sometimes you just think, okay, I'm going to be everything to everyone. I'm going to say yes to everything because I want to make money and I also want experience. But then there's a lot of negative things that happen with that. Again, you might be accepting work that doesn't make sense. It might not be motivating. It might not be the right fit or the right client. So I really like that advice of niching because I do think it's important. I think you're going to get closer to really being able to kind of grow and focus on who your ideal client is, the type of work you're going to be getting, the type of work that people know you for. And yeah, that's a hard lesson that I don't think a lot of business owners realize right away.
Yeah, and I think back even to my own husband, Andrew, when he first started off as a solopreneur graphic designer, he did say yes to everything because to him it felt like feast or famine, right?
Yeah.
And
Yeah.
I think that is a fear that people, whether they're a solopreneur or going into business together with somebody else, like, I think that is a fear. And you may need to initially take on different things from different subject areas just in order to keep the lights on. But I would say if you have any control over it, really try to focus on the industry you want to work within. Yeah.
Yeah, absolutely. So I do want to touch on work-life balance. Again, you work with your partner, and you also mentioned that you have a 4-day work week in your company. Um, we also have, hybrid models, working from home. How do you really deal with the balance of it? I mean, a lot of people struggle working from home, having the hybrid and shutting off. I mean, we have things on our phone. You can work 24 hours a day if you wanted to. And also, how do you separate that work and how do you turn it off? How do you avoid sort of burning out?
Those are a lot of big questions. So I'll do my best. But first, I want to say I think, like, the work-life balance thing is bullshit. It doesn't exist. It really doesn't exist. You can look for more harmony between the two. But especially if you own your own business, your brain is always on it, like,
It is.
always. And turning it off, I don't know if I want to turn it off, because this is my business, and I need to have my mind on it all the time. That being said, you know, Andrew gets up early, goes to the office early, goes to bed early. Like, that is his MO, and he works really, really hard, weekends, long days, especially through the spring, because he does graphic design for 5 different baseball teams. So he gets all their graphic design ready to go. But then in the summer, when it's baseball season, he's going to the games. He's making sure he's got relaxing time. So he makes up for it that kind of way. I approach it differently. I make sure that I schedule and attend all of my workouts so that I can blow off any steam I have, keep my mental health in check. Working out is absolutely a priority for me. I will say no to social engagements. I will, like, make other decisions just to make sure I get that workout in. It's that important to me. And I really feel like it makes all the difference for me. I can be having the worst day. My head will be stuck. I won't have any, I'll have like a brain blockage, and I'll go work out and the endorphins will go and my mood will lift, and then it gives you freedom to think better too, right? So I just cannot evangelize working out enough.
Yeah,
Yeah.
absolutely.
And then, like, I think for me, like, I often say that my life is kind of like a complicated set of dominoes, and if one falls, the rest is all going to fall out of place as well. But I really try to schedule everything. So if it's scheduled, it happens. If it's not scheduled, I don't have a lot of room for free flowing things in my life right now. For spontaneity, there's not really a lot of room for that right now. But at other times, I've got that room. So, trying to schedule things, but also scheduling room for just nothing to happen, or room to sit on the couch and do nothing and things like this. I think that helps you balance out. With our 4-day work week, I mean, my team knows this. When you're on the clock and you're working at Town Hall Brands, I want you to put your head down. I want you to work really hard. I want you to do the best work you can do. But then when it's the end of the day and it's Thursday night and it's time for your weekend, I want you to shut off and go have a great weekend, have a life that has nothing to do with me, so that you can come back and feel excited on Monday as you are on Thursday afternoon. And I'm not saying they all feel that excited yet. I'm trying to make sure there's no Sunday scaries. That's my goal for my team.
That's awesome. Yeah, that's a really great thing to promote and allow. I mean, again, there's a lot of companies that can say they have that work-life balance, but do they actually preach it? Do they actually do it themselves as well?
Yeah, I think we preach it and give it to our team more than we actually do it. Like our team doesn't work Fridays, but more often than not, Andrew and we got our eye on our emails on Fridays. And
Yeah, absolutely. So, in the marketing industry, your company does a lot of different things. How do you keep motivated and how do you stay fresh with some of the things that you're doing for your clients?
um, constantly learning. Constantly learning. So I'm just wrapping up this week. I'm doing the Destination British Columbia has a digital marketing academy. So
Nice.
I'm just wrapping up that this week. Our team takes lots of different courses. We have a formal education policy at our company. So we help to support education and growth within industry, attending conferences. And again, like I said earlier, like we like to collaborate. So getting together with other agency owners or people that do the same thing we do, let's talk about best practices together or come up with some ideas of ways we can do good work together. Yeah.
Very, very cool. That's awesome. Um, You mentioned a little bit about having a mentor. I'm a really big believer in having mentors, as well as I'm a mentor myself, and I know that you are too. I'd love to learn a little bit more about, how you found your first mentor, and then why you've decided to kind of continue to do that path as well.
Yeah, well, I think that one of the interesting things about people that mentor you is you don't always recognize that they are a mentor until later, and you look back and you go, wow, they mentored me. So,
Yeah.
I worked retail in my 20s, and I remember this woman, Carol. She was probably my first mentor because she really held my hand through all the process and trained me and built me up and all of those things that mentors do for their mentees. And so I look back now and go, yeah, she mentored me. So she was probably my first mentor. But I mentioned Christine. She's absolutely my mentor. I think like what was exciting about it is I didn't go, will you officially mentor me? That's not what happened. I just realized how much I could learn from her. A couple of years in working for her, there was an opportunity for her to go do something different and me to stay on with one of the clients we had. And she's like, what do you want to do? And even though I was still like, and she knows this, like I was really intimidated by her for probably the first like 8 years we worked together. And I was like, well, I'm kind of scared of her, but I know I can learn a lot. So I followed her. And for sure, she taught me a lot about ways to deal with people, what kind of bullshit to put up with and not to put up with, and, different ways of conducting yourself in business that I hadn't experienced before. So I did learn a lot from her. Absolutely. Other mentors I have is a woman named Sandra Oldfield, who also is in the wine, and now she's got her own consulting business. She took time for me when I was just a junior pup and held my hand through a few things. And so now seeing that these women took the time for me, it makes me want to pay it forward. So I have a couple people who I have been kind of officially mentoring for more than 10 years. And when that happens, we try to get together occasionally for coffee. They'll brain dump what's happening in their lives. They'll ask me for some suggestions, and then I'll try to hold them to account. go do this thing and then let me know how it turned out for you. Or if you decided not to do it, tell me what told you not to do it and why you made a different decision. And then helping boost them and lift them up and keep them going along the way. And then the informal people who have come to me and said, you've mentored me. And I go, wow, okay, well, that's really flattering, because I never saw myself as that role for you. I'm glad you learned something from me, and that, you consider me a mentor. And I feel that is just one of the most flattering things that a leader could hear, is that, someone has learned from them and it's enabled them to go grow and do their next great thing. I love that. And I also, when I first started my career, I did a co-op program. So, you do the co-op, you get the work experience, then you finish off your schooling. So seeing how that helped me and gave me a bit of a leg up in getting employment right out of school, I also try to support students either through internships or co-ops or things like this.
Amazing. Amazing. Yes. Being a mentor and having a mentor is so beneficial. And again, it's so wonderful to give back to.
Yeah, I'm a member of an organization called Leeann Froese, which is women in the culinary and beverage fields. And we exist solely to help elevate other women in these careers. So we fundraise and give out scholarships. We support these women in other ways. We have events. Yeah, I've been part of that for quite a few years too. And it's been so incredible to help support not always young people. Sometimes there's people who are midlife who are making a pivot or just need to scale up and skill up, and to be able to help these women carry on so that they can grow and do better is just amazing.
Yeah, absolutely. So other than mentorship, has there been anything else, any other resources that have helped you in your career?
I mentioned ongoing education. I consider myself to be a bit of I like to drink from the fire hose when it comes to information and people. I want to gather as many people and meet as many people as I can. I want to take as much information in as I can. My brain wants it all, probably more than it can handle, obviously. But to me, continually trying to learn or going to places where you can learn and meet other like-minded people, I think is really important. Back in 2000, if I can tell a story, back in 2009, I was working with this woman who was based in the States, and she sent me an email, and her email footer said, "Follow me on Twitter." And I'm like, "What's a Twitter?" So I said to her, I'm like, what's a Twitter? And so nobody here in any scale was on Twitter yet. So I was a super early adopter for Twitter. And then I realized at the same time, this was when the blog community was really starting to grow as well. And I go back to what I was saying earlier about PR, as a publicist, I feel like it's my job to get my client's story out there. The places that story lands, again, depends on what kind of eyeballs they want to get in front of. So I really felt it was my business to understand the blog community, to understand the social media community. So I started going to meetups. I started taking classes. I got involved in Festival and Tweet Ups and Northern Voice and all these things that don't happen anymore. But it was the OG group. The founders of Hootsuite were involved, and it was the early digital days in Vancouver. And I felt like it was really important, and I still feel this way. If I'm going to be working within that space, I need to be able to understand how it works and stay current, and so you can be part of that conversation on an ongoing way. So I'd say, join a meetup, join a like-minded group. There's lots of different communities out there that are doing gatherings of, women who want to do better in business or learn more from each other. So I'm talking mainly about women. I know they're out there for men too, but I just always gravitate to the one for women.
Yeah, absolutely. No, thank you for sharing that. So you've mentioned that your company, you have a local presence, you also have a global presence. Is there anywhere else in the world that you'd like to expand your business or maybe live one day?
Oh, I want to move to California.
Ooh, yeah.
Anyone who knows me well knows I love Paso Robles and I want to move there.
I love that. And I mean,
Mainly just because it's so beautiful there.
Having sun is important for
Yeah.
sure.
Yeah, no, I mean, I feel like I'm lucky because I do work with European clients, and that does take me overseas to Europe. I've been to the United States, most of the wine regions in California, and even my wine travels have taken me to the Southern Hemisphere too. So, I feel pretty like I know that that's not an occurrence that gets to happen for everybody. So I recognize how lucky I am for that. I love Spain. I've been there a few times. I could see myself setting up shop in Spain just so I can hang out again where it's sunny.
Yeah, absolutely. Um, is there an accomplishment or anything that has been sort of a big milestone for you that you'd like to share with us?
Oh golly. I think it's not business related, but having a family and seeing that family go on to be successful. I have an adult child with a family of their own. And so I have grandchildren. And then my son is 18, graduating from high school, about to plan, what their future is going to look like. So I feel so proud of that, to see them be successful. But I also think that, like, I don't know if I take enough time to sit down and give myself a pat on the back. I feel like if someone else was talking to me, they'd go, "Hey girl, like, look at all this stuff you've done." But I don't usually look in the mirror and do that. What I usually do is look at people who I've worked with, who I've now seen to go on and, like, just, do wonderful things, start their families, kill it in their careers, and to know that I've had some small piece of that, that makes me really proud. Yeah.
Yeah, thank you for sharing that. It's also such a big thing that I think women do struggle with in their careers and in their business is acknowledging and accepting and voicing some of their milestones and accomplishments. I mean, sometimes you hear all these things about yourself and you think, oh, no, not me. I mean, did I really do that? Maybe this person helped me. Like, you always have these excuses. You can't just
Mm-hmm.
accept it and be like, yes, I did this. This is my accomplishment, period. Nothing else to fluff it up, just standing in what that accomplishment is. But it's a really hard thing that I do constantly see in conversations with women, that we don't sometimes just own it and say, yes, this is the thing that I've done. I'm excited and proud of it.
Yeah, I think for me personally, because my business is to promote other people, I'm always more like, if I got a client in a magazine, or I got them a great interview, or I helped them get some sort of award in their industry, because we've, like, rallied and got that to happen, and they're named something, this or that of the year. I feel like those are wonderful career accomplishments, to be able to do that for clients.
Mhm.
But I don't know that I ever slow down enough to, like I said, look in the mirror and look at what I've done. And I'm not afraid or shy to own what I've done, but to actually slow down enough to turn things inward and then go, okay, here, yes, I did this, I did that. That was my idea. I'm really proud of it. Yeah, I started it, all those things. I don't know. I don't know how the world accepts people going me, 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 I feel like I'm so much more of a how are you kind of person, and more like audience focused, that I don't talk about myself enough. But I am proud to have received some recognition for things I've done. Yeah.
That's good. I'm happy to hear that. What would you say has been the hardest thing that you've learned in business or with growing your brand?
I think the hardest part is when you have a client that doesn't pay you, and
Mhm.
you wonder how you're going to pay your team and pay your
Yeah.
mortgage and all of those things. Like, nobody really publicly talks about that struggle of making sure that all the accounting is done properly, and people, I feel proud that we don't just support our own family, but we can support other families with our business as well. But
Yeah.
that's reliant upon us having a great stable of clients that pay us on time, that appreciate what we do, pay us what we're worth, all of those things. I'm proud to say that right now we do. But in the past, there have been people who, we've done a lot of work for, they haven't paid their bill, and then that leaves us in a huge pinch. So that, I think that's one of the hardest business lessons. And then one of the hardest emotional lessons is, like we've had situations where clients have changed ownership or changed hands, and our relationship working for them changes, not because of poor performance, not because we don't all like each other, not because of anything like that. It's just a business situation. And so like the business side of me understands that, the emotional side of me mourns it. Yeah.
Of course. Yeah. Very, very tough things to deal with for sure. Is there anything new, exciting, different that's coming up for Town Hall that we can know about?
Well, we turned 10 this year, so we're just trying to figure out what we're going to do to commemorate that. We haven't really decided how we're going to celebrate 10 years, but we do know it's worth celebrating.
Yeah, absolutely.
So maybe we'll have a party. I don't know. I don't know yet.
Yeah, I think that's a huge thing. Celebrating those milestones are so important. And again, 10 years in business is a huge milestone.
Yeah, when we slow down to really think about it, and to think about throughout those 10 years, we've had those ups and downs of finance, we've had the pandemic and, worked our way through it and all of those things. Like, yeah, I feel like we can be very proud of hitting this milestone.
Yeah, absolutely. Do you have any campaigns that are coming up that you kind of would like to share with us?
For our own business or for clients, or what are you thinking?
Yeah, any of the above.
Well, I mean, I was telling you a little bit about it before. In the early days of our business, we didn't have a website yet, but we were going to a conference, and we needed people to kind of know that we were coming out the chute. And so what we did was we made this sign. It was a thought bubble, and in it had the hashtag with town hall. So we told people we wanted them to take a picture thinking about town hall, thinking about being with town hall. And so if you were to, and your listeners will go search the hashtag with town hall, you'll probably find all kinds of fun content with amazing people. And, I was thinking that maybe we should resurrect with town hall in honor of our 10th anniversary, maybe Absolutely. Go back to some of those earlier people and see where they are now, or I don't really know yet, but something to do with town hall would make sense for us. Yeah.
So fun. I love that. And again, to be able to reflect too of where that started and where that is now would be a really cool thing.
Yeah. How it's going, how it started.
Exactly. Well, I have a few quick questions for you just to get to learn a little bit more about you better. Again, the best way to answer these questions is just whatever comes to mind first.
Okay.
What talent would you most like to have?
Ooh, dancing.
Dancing, yeah.
Like shuffle dancing.
I love that. What is your greatest extravagance?
Oh, greatest extravagance. Oh, I don't know. I think extravagance is one of those things that means different things to different people. To me, it is just going into the forest and taking the time to just do nothing. That's my greatest extravagance.
Love that. I love that. What's the worst advice you've ever been given?
To not do something because it was going to be hard and expensive.
What is one thing that you want to learn more about?
Oh, everything. If I had to choose one thing, I don't know what one thing I want to learn more about. Maybe about how to cook a dish better. I'm an okay cook, but I could always learn more in those skills. If there's one thing I will want to learn more about, it's generally digital media, but I'm working on that. So yeah.
Awesome. What is your favorite rainy day movie?
Ooh, I love Zoolander.
Oh, Zoolander, so good.
It's just silly and all that.
Yes. What is one quality that you most love about yourself?
Oh, how friendly I am to people. Yeah. And how I'm just open to seeing everybody for who they are.
It's a great quality. How would you like to be remembered?
As somebody who loved other people. Yeah.
I love that. And the last question I always like to end with is, what's your favorite thing about being a female?
Well, if you're looking to the general, assigned female at birth traits, I think that we do carry this nurturing aspect that is intrinsic as to who we are. There's lots of arguments about that, but that's probably one of the things I love most. I love that I get to be a mom and a grandma. I love those. So I think those are the best things. Yeah, I think that's it.
Amazing. Thank you. Well, thank you so much for sharing your story. Is there anything else that you want to share with your audience that you want to leave with them today?
Well, I mean, I thank everyone if they made it this far for listening to my little story. I'm very flattered to be on this podcast and be among conversations of some truly incredible people who I would love to meet one day. So, so I just I'm very fun. I'm very easy to find on social media. If people want to chat with me, I'm on LinkedIn and all the social channels. I'm sure you can help that when you talk about the show. But yeah, I'm just I'm open to people. I'm a busy person, but I'm open to people. So if anyone wants to chat about anything we discussed, I'm open to it. Yeah.
Amazing. Well, thank you so much. It was a pleasure getting to know you a bit better.
Yeah, I really appreciate it too. Thank you so much.
Thank you so much for listening to today's episode. If you enjoyed listening to this episode, please subscribe, rate, review, and share it with a friend who you think might enjoy it too. These small actions truly mean the world to a small business owner like myself. You can also stay up to date with the latest podcast releases, behind the scenes, and insider info about each guest by following us on Instagram. If you are interested in being a guest or learning more about our sponsorship and partnership opportunities, I would love to hear from you. Thank you so much for listening. It truly means the world. We wish you a wonderful week and hope that it is filled with creativity and love.